All right, we got some breaking news we have to discuss. Adam Schefter. The Colts have gone back to Anthony Richardson as the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. As I said, more information has been brought to the table. Joe Flacco has turned back into Joe Flacco. It's Anthony Richardson's time now going forward. The 4-6 Colts going back to Anthony Richardson. So I expected this. You did not.
I didn't necessarily not expect it. I just don't. It feels directionless to me. The problem
doesn't to me. They took a shot. Joe Flacco, when they were 4-4, Joe Flacco was playing better football than Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson also had just tapped his helmet on a play.
Pat McAfee was just out there lamenting the shit show that is the direction, the organization, the functionality of the Indianapolis Colts franchise right now. A franchise that he used to play for and has an intimate knowledge of, and its own leadership in Kenny Moore was just calling out effectively after last week's game. This does not feel like a well thought out, coherent strategy for the single most important position on that roster that will determine the direction of the team going forward, right? I understand, and the only saving grace can be if the benching was a punishment benching for Richardson being so naive as to think he can tap out of a game and then tell people about it afterwards, right? That's the only way you can defend this decision.
I think that's the most logical reason.
Now, my question is, if that is the reason, from an internal point of view, it probably doesn't matter. But I think they look bad for this in any other explanation. If that is the explanation, it's the only way they don't look bad, and you probably can't tell people that's the reason. So if you're Shane Steichen,
I think there's percentages. I think that's a part of the reason. If the backup quarterback was Sam Ehlinger with zero track record of success, they probably don't make the move. So two things happened. Anthony Richardson opted out, and I will repeat, if every former player that's on TV was like, that's unacceptable,
right,
then the current players are probably saying that's unacceptable. So something had to change in the locker room. And you happen to have Joe Flacco, who, to repeat, had played better football than Anthony Richardson to this point, and they were 4-4 when they made this move. So those two things combined was like, all right, we're going to try to make a little run here, and the kid needs to sit down for a bit. 2 weeks happened. Flacco started playing not like 23 Flacco or 22 or 21 Flacco when he was with the Jets. He started playing like 2018, like the dude needs to retire. He did retire at one point. He started playing like retired Joe Flacco or on the couch Joe Flacco.
Right.
So more information was brought to the table. He's not bringing our team back. Richardson sat for 2 weeks. Hopefully they feel like he's got his head in the right place and maybe earned the trust of his teammates. Whatever was lacking is hopefully back within 2 weeks, and we get the kid back out there because ultimately he needs experience. He started like 20 games in his entire career since high school.
But if Shane Steichen came out and said, look, clearly a mistake was made in terms of Richardson tapping out of a game and then telling everybody about it afterwards, we needed to essentially reinforce that that's not cool. There needed to be accountability for that. We sat him down for a couple of weeks. Joe Flacco came in. Now we're going back to Richardson. If he came out and said that, I would feel a lot better about this as a direction, because that would make some sense.
Why does he have to say that to the public?
That's the problem.
What's the point? You put it out in the public, and then half the people are like, "Look at this idiot! Can't even control his own team." When people admit mistakes in public, half the people are like, oh, look at that humility. And the other people are like, you're an idiot, never should have made that mistake.
So that's the problem, is that if he says it out loud, it doesn't necessarily do anybody any good. But not saying it out loud leads you to suspect that the alternative is true, which is they simply are rudderless right now, and they're just lurching from one quarterback to the other without any coherent plan. That is a problem, because Richardson right now is a sinking ship, right? We drafted this guy off the back of staggering, unique physical traits that have literally never happened before. I mean, the RAS or whatever, the relative athletic score, RAS, however people actually say that out loud, he had the highest one that's ever been recorded for a quarterback, right? When you factor in athleticism along with size, and he's literally the most athletic quarterback that's ever entered the game, right? But he's wildly inexperienced and wasn't particularly good in college. So you draft this kid who wasn't a particularly good college quarterback, who has zero experience effectively, and you take him just because he's the most athletic and athletically gifted physical set of tools you've ever seen before. And it didn't work yet. It hasn't been good. There's been flashes. He still has like the greatest throw of any quarterback this season, but the overall baseline has been pretty miserable. So if you've sat him down for that reason, well now, okay, what's the way to rebuild that? What is the pathway to developing him? It almost certainly isn't sit him down for 2 weeks and then see if it's fixed. That's the problem. So if you don't say out loud, our reason for this was we had to bench him because he basically lost the locker room, and it was an accountability thing. If you don't say that out loud, you automatically think, well, if maybe they didn't do that. Maybe it's just they don't know what they're doing with this kid.
I mean, the Panthers sat Bryce Young. It was for more than 2 weeks. He came back and he looked different.
But that is a different situation. I don't think that Richardson was playing at a Bryce Young level where you're like, he has to be sat down now because this is such a train wreck. Nothing is working. I don't think that's where they were. So it's not the same situation where you're like, when the Panthers sat down Bryce Young, they were effectively giving up on Bryce Young, right? They were like, we've seen a year and 2 games or whatever of this. It's miserable. We're pulling the plug, and then we'll throw him back in later, and maybe that'll change things. But like, to hell with it. It's got to happen. The Colts were not, I don't think they were there. I think they were like, this is a wildly inexperienced kid who's raw. It's not working right now. We're sitting him down, but he's still our guy, right? And if he's still your
they
guy,
wanted to save the season with Flacco playing.
But if he's still your guy, then the question is, what is the pathway you're putting him on to get him back to that level? And that almost certainly did not include putting him back in the starting lineup 2 weeks later. That's the problem with this thing. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.